Buddy, it's Ron over at Becoming Enlightened Together. So we're about ready to do another entire week read, and that's today, Sunday, all the way through till next Saturday. So whatever that date is. So I mean today's the 8th, I believe. So I just lose all track of time. It's irrelevant to me in a lot of ways these days, but being retired and all. Anyways, the overall energy of the week is quite good. So today's energy, or I should say the weekly energy overall, is that of Othala. Now, Othala in the upright, it's basically it's an ancestral energy type of room that we talk about. We use it for communicating with, summoning, getting in contact with our higher self. And our ancestors, things like that. But what it means is like home, house, dwelling, ancestral property, just property in general, inheritances in general, possessions. It talks about something that is important to a person or a group order. It talks about abundance. Talks about your spiritual heritage. It talks about things such as having aid at this time in spiritual and both physical journeys. So regardless of what it is that you're endeavoring to do, whether you're more into making things happen in a physical plane, or you're more about the spiritual aspects of change. Changing your world through prayer and meditation and things of that nature by changing yourself, kind of a thing. I mean, I guess that also equates to a physical journey, but what I'm saying is you have aid in both of those endeavors right now with your spiritual team. And it talks about source of safety at this time, throughout this week, and increase and abundance coming your way. So again, we're seeing the highlights of the rewards to come. Once we finally do, as a collective, all get over that finish line. And again, some of us have already gone over that finish line. Others are in the process of doing it right now as we speak, and others, they still have a few things that they have to overcome or to accomplish before they get to that point. So everybody's on a different timeline, so to speak, in regards to that. And again, I speak about time, in passing on almost every reading, because it's something that confuses the issue for so many people, especially as we deal with things such as intuitive endeavors or spiritual endeavors, or just looking at divination, for example. Time is not linear, not at all. And there's so much, in terms of scientific as well as spiritual, literature that you can look at to help you to try to piece it together to understand it. It's a very difficult thing to explain, but we have multiple realities happening all around us at all times. So when we talk about past, present, and future, that past may indeed have already come about for you, but that past for somebody else may be their future, so to speak. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, so put it wherever it resonates with you personally, okay? And this is not to take away from any of my responsibility as far as being able to determine what the energy is and how it relates to the collective. It is a collective energy we're talking about. So again, because everybody's on a different timeline, it's going to affect each and every one of you out there differently. So whenever you see this is when you're meant to see this. What you feel resonates with you, take that, use that as a signpost to help you to make some decisions, or to get out of this or that, or perhaps even sidetrack from an obstacle that's coming your way, or find a better way of getting through it. However it applies to you, however it benefits you, is the way it was meant to be. Okay, so regardless of whether you see this today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next decade, next millennium, it don't matter. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to get at. Alright, there's something in it for you. Now, today's energy, Sunday, is that of Haglas. Now, Haglas basically is something about uncontrolled forces, uncontrolled weather, your mind when it basically is racing, it's uncontrolled environment of some type. So hail is another example of that, how it can come even in the middle of summer sometimes, and it can destroy a crop. Sometimes it can destroy an entire field of crops or just a very small segment of it. There's no way of saying with any certainty, and it's very difficult, if not impossible, especially back in the days when these meanings were put together to overcome such a act of nature, if you will. So uncontrolled wrath is also what it's talking about. Okay, it talks about wrath of nature, risks, delays, disruptions. Like I said, uncontrolled consciousness. Trials, tests, that kind of a thing. Controlled crisis also leading to completion of something in inner harmony. Those things seem counterintuitive, but everything from the second group, family, or ayat, it does seem to have kind of a yin and yang type of meaning attached to it, whether it's upright or reversed. So we see both the negative aspects of it, but we also see the reason or the positive aspects of it as well. And again, the controlled crisis that actually leads to the completion of something, or inner harmony. An example, I guess you could say, since I use fields and things of that nature, I'll just use another one, and this is even a biblical concept, that every 7 years you burn the fields or whatever, that carbon that's added to the soil and everything else, it restores many of the nutrients that were lost as a result of the 6 prior years of planting and harvesting yields and so on. And you need that in order to continue to plant and to be able to produce, So you have to give it rest. You have to give it what it needs to restore itself, just like you. You need to sleep. Your body repairs itself while you sleep. And you need nourishment and proper water. You need exercise. You need all of these things in order to stay healthy. And, this is kind of what the meanings of these, polar opposite types of meanings are, when they put them together in a specific, symbol, such as Haglas. Now, the energy for tomorrow, or Monday, is that of Manas, and it's one of the few ones that we have. In fact, it's the only one we have this entire week, which is in the reverse. Now, Manas, just like the name or the root of the word man, as speaks about man, mankind, humanity, things of that nature. But in the reverse, we're talking about things that are specific to humans and their negative aspects, like selfishness, victimism, egoism, loneliness, depression. Talks about realizing your mortality and maybe being bound by that sense of, I'm going to die. Well, we all die at some point. You should live. Find a reason to live each moment instead of, thinking about the inevitable that will happen. Who knows? Next second, 100 years from now. Don't sweat the small stuff, I guess. So, talks about somebody who's basically blindness, self-delusion, delusional. Somebody who's also cunning, sly, crafty, manipulative, calculated. Whoever that is for tomorrow, whether it is you who has really gotten off the beaten track, if this is one of the collective and this is for you, that's telling me that you're definitely treading on very, very thin ice, and you have revisited many of the, let's just say, many of the old ways. Otherwise, this is speaking about somebody who's very close to you in your energetic sphere of influence that is very much in this type of energy. And that could mean they also want to bring that kind of energy to you. Again, this will resonate differently for everybody. So Tuesday's energy is a good one. It's the one I have tattooed in my chest. It's Urus. Urus in the upright. It stands for a once very powerful beast. It was a very powerful, ox called the Aruk, and it was hunted to extinction approximately 500 years ago, mostly in the European region and so on. But the Norse, they looked at it with reverence and awe because of its power and so on. So those types of attributes are attributed to that rune: strength, power, health, vitality, and untamed potential, influences of speed, and a time of great energy and health, promotion. It talks about action, wisdom, even talks about changes and stopping. Power and pattern. So in other words, you're changing your own life through your sheer will alone. You have that ability to do so with this type of energy. The formulation of the self. It talks also, of course, about masculine potency and sexual desire. So, there's nothing shameful at all about sex. I talk about it quite a bit, and the Norse, they recognized it for what it was. They didn't shy from it. In fact, unlike most of Europe at that time, women had many of the same rights as the men. They could own property. They had leadership roles. They fought in battles, and we're finding more and more archaeological proof to support all of that. So they were, and they could file for divorce. All of these, not that that's a positive thing per se, but in some cases it's definitely a positive attribute or trait, characteristic, how you look at it, I suppose. But so they were reverenced and they were looked at as being equals. And look what they were able to achieve with that type of relationship one with one another. It was, to me, the perfect relationship with man and woman. Okay, equal. Not equal in the sense that, yes, the woman was probably not as strong physically in most cases, that's true. But they do have their traits, attributes, and so on, that if we all used these things together, especially if they were whole people, a woman can embody also masculine attributes, just like a man can inhabit feminine attributes. Again, divination and things of that nature are typically associated with the feminine aspect, right? Because of intuition and things like that. So when you can incorporate them, masculine and feminine, in balance in your person, and you get together with another person who is also balanced, you're what would be more or less labeled today as a power couple. I mean, they wrongly talk about that in today's world by somebody who basically is just, popular as far as some kind of maybe a movie star, sports star, whatever the case may be, and they feel because money itself makes them powerful, but it doesn't, and they can lose that money, and sometimes they do, which means they lose their standing, their power. I'm talking about real, genuine, cultivated power from within, not something outside, okay? And that's far more important anyway. Now, for Wednesday, what we have is Ewas. Ewas, too, is in the upright. And Ewas basically talks about horse or horses, two horses. It talks about any type of mode of forward movement, like a vehicle, car, plane, boat, whatever, transportation. It talks about movement, but it also talks about trust and loyalty, because especially with two horses, they have to be in sync, they have to be in rhythm, or that of the nature of the horse and the rider. If either of them are not, doing their part properly, well, if you've ever ridden a horse before and you've never done it, then before that, it can be very painful for the rider. Well, it can be just as, disorienting for the horse. So you have to work together in order to be able to achieve, the maximum potential in terms of moving forward. And that's kind of what this rune is intimating. So again, things such as harmony and progress and trust and loyalty, they all tie together, and they also put together like an ideal relationship as well, whether it's a partnership, a marriage, whatever the case may be. Okay, what it also entails or talks about, it says that you can more than believe in the truth of all the runes that are around it. So this is like a significator. Thank you. So it just basically says that yes, indeed, these runes in their current position are exactly what they should be. You're on the right track, okay? And this is verification of that. So that's what it is. That's what a significator is in this regard. All right, so next up, what we have for Thursday is the God Tyr's mighty rune. Okay? Now, Tyr was a god of justice and honor and war, and of course they're all war gods and goddesses, right? He's the great sky god, so he's a warrior and everything else, and he did his fighting basically by sheer tenacity and will, an iron will to do right, no matter what. Once he made up his mind that this was the right course of action, nothing can steer him away from it, nothing. He didn't use magic per se, like the other gods and goddesses at times. He was just, like I said, extremely. Well, he just believed what he believed, and there was no steering him away from it, And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all, especially when you're right, and he was. So, again, sacrifice is part of that meaning. Intrigue and courage, justice, honor, leadership. Okay, it talks about being able to analyze and rationalize situations and circumstances. It talks about knowing a man's or woman's own strengths. It's one of the leadership traits, characteristics, or attributes. If you look at any leadership book, that'll be one of the things. You have to know both yourself. You have to know those who basically you're, being a leader for all around. And you have to also know, and if it's a combat situation, you have to know your enemy. Okay, if you know those things, then the war is already won. Okay, and the leadership is far more effective. Okay, so it talks about victory in any situation or competition, and this even includes legal battles. So we saw the potentiality of legalities in terms of the overall energy this week with Othala. So if that's the case for anybody out there this week, well, with Tiwaz as well in that reading, it means your success is guaranteed, and we saw that twice. And again, it follows the rune Iwas, which basically states that indeed this is the truth. Okay, so a verifier upon the verification of the rune. So double verification is kind of what I'm getting at. A triple verification, because Othala and Iwas both say the same thing, and being that it's right next to Iwas means that, again, it's being verified that that's fact. That's fact, Jack. Now, Friday's energy is Kanaz. Kanaz is also in the upright. And this one I have tattooed on my hand. Now, Kanaz basically talks about, it's like that light bulb going off, in some kind of a cartoon or whatever, where the character has that light bulb moment, as they say. Spark of inspiration, knowledge, understanding of something, knowing which way to go, what to do, how to do it. So positivity, energy, the beacon, the torch, knowledge, inspiration, aspirations, protection and defense. Once again, talks about creativity, technical knowledge and abilities. Talks about the vital life force. Talks about harness power to create your own reality. We've seen that twice as well in this reading for this week. And it talks about the power of light versus that of darkness, in order to be able to see, to navigate, and to go about your daily business and everything else. It's much easier to deal with that. new strength and power being available to you. And again, talking about passion and sexual love. So there's no shame in the Viking game when it comes to, sex. I mean, it's on. But they were very responsible at the same time, despite what Hollywood would have you believe in a lot of ways. They were far more cultured in a lot of respects than their other European counterparts. They bathed regularly, they had their own legal system. There's a lot to be said about them. Yes, they could be hard asses. I mean, you're going out there and conquering, unknown lands and so on, and you're doing it basically, with nothing except what you packed in your boat with you. You got to be a badass. That's all there is to it. And survive in areas that were completely different than the one you came from, So. And finally, for Saturday's energy, another very positive rune, dealing once again with protection, defense, warding off of evil, and that's August. August in the upright. It talks about optimism, the soul, again, fortune, but it deals mostly with protection, defense, shielding, a protective urge to shield oneself and others, guardianship, awakening to higher life, following your intuition, and holding on to or maintaining your success. Okay, so all in all, it's a very, very positive week now. So we're going in almost a month straight of very, very positive readings here. Now there's going to be a few snafus throughout the week, and that's fine. But for the most part, the weekly energy itself is extremely powerful and very, very positive. And we have a lot of the most powerful runes in the 24, rune collection that deal with power, protection, success, vitality, sex, and all of the very positive. I think it's positive. I don't know about you, but what I'm saying is everybody basically who wants or needs anything from the materialistic or the spiritual sense, it's covered in this week. So all very good stuff. And I'm going to leave that with you guys, and or leave this, on that particular note. I cannot talk today. It's just, I don't know what the hell's going on. I got a candle going, and it's organic, so it's pretty powerful. Maybe I'm just having a lack of oxygen moment or something. Anyway, so stay victorious. Take care. God bless, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Okay.